Well, hello, and good morning to you. Today we are going to be doing a little bit of work on this 2014 Jeep Patriot. So this is something that's just maintenance, and pretty much we're getting some squealing coming from the front brakes, which is usually a wear indicator for the brake pads that once you get to a certain level, it'll start making this squeaking sound. So right now, this is my father-in-law's Jeep Patriot. This is one with the previous videos we did the bull guard on the front. We did the 2-inch lift. We haven't done the tires yet. He's still, I guess, waiting for these to kind of wear out, which they're pretty close to, and then we'll end up putting some beefier tires on there. So today we're going to be working on just replacing just the front brake pads, because I think the car only has probably 30-something thousand miles, so the rotor should still be good. So the only thing that we're going to need for this, we're going to need the lift, we're going to need jack stands, socket wrench set. We're only going to need a 14 millimeter and a 3/4 inch bit wrench in order to socket wrench in order to do this job. The 14 millimeter is going to be for the caliper for the brake caliper to actually remove it, and the 3/4 is going to be, or 19 millimeter, whichever one you want to use, is going to be for the lug nuts. So apart from the sockets, you're going to need some high temperature grease. They sell caliper grease. You're going to need that just to grease up the ends of the new brake pads. You're going to need a C-clamp, which I have right here. So you're going to need one of these, and that's going to be pretty much it. The first thing that we're going to do actually is we're going to remove or open up the brake filler cap. Now you want to clean that off because you don't want to get any dirt or anything inside there. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find a good rag and go ahead and start cleaning that off. Now I'm going to spray this down a little bit with this no rinse cleaner that I use on the car. That's what I usually use when I do this stuff. And you just want to clean this off just around, especially underneath the cap, before you take it off. And then we're going to open that up and we're going to set this aside. That's just so that when you compress the piston on the brake caliper, the fluid level will a lot of times rise. And if there's air that needs to rise, that might prevent it. So you want to go ahead and just open that up so that the fluid can come back up. It should never overfill or come over. But at the end of this, we're gonna check the level also to see if it needs to be topped off. All right, I just wanted to show jack points. I think when you use your actual jack, you're going to end up using this little area here. There's a little hole there. But for me, I always go for the frame rail. For this bulky part, it's the thickest part of the metal, and it's part of the frame. And that's where I lift up from. And eventually, I'll put a jack stand probably on this side also. You can also put it on the components there. So you can do that too, but honestly, I usually end up just putting it back here. All right, so the truck has been secured on jack stands now, and I'm going to go ahead and remove the lug nuts for this with a 3/4 inch socket. If I break that, then I don't know what the heck's going on with these. Broke them loose. And that's gone. So we have our caliper, we have our drum. Our drum usually you can feel, as long as there's no like ridges here, then and they're pretty new. These things only have like 30-something thousand miles on them. They should last for a pretty good while. So these are, and the lip here is fine. It's not big. You can barely feel it. So I'm fine with that. There's no need to replace these, to replace the rotors. The only thing we're going to do is replace these pads. So the first thing that we're going to do right now is we are going to compress the piston. There's two ways of doing it. One way, on this particular one, you can actually do it another way, but the way that I normally do is I take the two bolts out. Once I've taken the two bolts out, I will remove the caliper, the piston section of it, and I will take the brake pads out. For this one, I'm actually going to compress the piston while the caliper is still attached. So this is what you're looking at. I'm just pressing here, that's holding it back, and you can see movement. You can see movement there as the piston is getting compressed. And when you feel a good amount of resistance, you just back off, because usually that's enough for the piston to be completely compressed. So this is another way of doing it. Normally I just take off, the caliper, and then that usually works. But for this one, that's what I'm doing. I have a feeling the battery's low on this thing. There you go. So we got that out. Now this is gonna have, you're gonna have to re-grease. This is what you're gonna have to re-grease. This thing should slide up. Now if you want to, this is the first time I've done this, so the grease should be okay, and from there I can see it's okay. It's not, so you could take that off also. That's something else that you could do. I'm just gonna, do it this way, so that way I don't have to tie this up. Normally you would have to, let's see, this is the caliper. Normally you would have to go ahead and remove that and hang it up by a zip tie or something up, so it doesn't hang on the actual, like what you don't want is it hanging on to these brake lines. So you want to take all the weight off of that. So for this, I'm just going to put that up. Now from there, this is what your brake shoes look like. They should slide right out. So we're going to remove those, and you can tell they're worn down. There's nothing left on them. They should have, I'll show you the new one. But that's what your piston looks like once it's compressed back where it's supposed to be. And the rotors look fine. The new kits, this is what I ended up getting. We got the Wagner from Amazon. I think they were like 36 bucks or something like that. That's what the part number looks like. ZD866. And but I'll put everything in the description. It's from a link to where I got them and all that. But it's a kit. It comes with brake pads for the fronts. Comes with all those little goodies. So we're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna remove this. I usually end up just cleaning all this when I do that with some brake cleaner. So we're gonna do that now. But we'll get to that now. That's the old one. You can get a wire brush for this. I don't have one on hand, so I'm just gonna go ahead and just clean it down, wipe it down, scrub it with this, because we're gonna put grease in this anyways. And from there, we're gonna take some high temperature grease. This is what I have. I've had this for years, lasts forever. High temperature, multi-purpose grease, wheel bearings, disc brakes, whatever. So try not to get any on the disc if you can. It doesn't really matter, it'll burn off, but it might get some smell or some smoke. So get at the top too. Just to show you, this is the difference between the two pads. You can see the amount of meat that's on the new one compared to the old, and there's nothing left. I mean, these pads were done. It's almost down to this metal. So they definitely needed to be replaced. This has a little shim here. So we're gonna put that back on this side also. This apparently goes down here. It's a little shim. Now it looks just like the other one. So apparently that's where that goes. And that one goes on the inside here. So you can see the ring. So this was, you know, where this piston ring, where the piston here was pressing up against that. So this was in that orientation. And we're gonna put this one back in the same way. Now the other thing we're gonna do is we're gonna grease up these little nipples here. These are the ones that slide back and forth. So you wanna grease up the little nipples. Those are the ones you wanna grease up. So we got both of those greased up. We're gonna put them in. Okay, so they're in there. And let's see, for some reason only that side had, this side didn't have that, so I'm not sure if I want to put that, or at least I didn't see it unless it fell off. Actually, you know what we didn't do? We got to take this off. I knew it was a little too loose in there. It is loose because we have not put this back in. This has to go in. This is a new one. So this goes back and up. It slides right in. All right, so that's in. It's nice and in place. Now we can go back and do this. That should slide in. There you go. It's a little snugger now. Now these kits do come with some these little kits, this little brake loops, so you don't have to actually buy some. I always use my own, but they, you know, I don't feel like this is enough, and it's a mess to open up, so I don't even use this. All right. So this will go into here. It's all set. And then from there, we can put this back down, make sure that it goes in there. I might need to compress this a little more, so we'll see. You can take a brake pad, an old brake pad, so it could use a little bit more compression. Okay, and we're good. Back it off, and we're good. So that's fully compressed now. So now this should come down a lot easier. Yep, and it's in. And from there, you put the bolt back in. Make sure this is all lined up. Let's see. Make sure that rubber boot is lined up. We're gonna put that back through there. Let's see. Okay. And then we're gonna tighten this down. Like normally these I just hand tighten, or I tighten with the impact wrench. To me, that's enough for me. And from there, you just have to go back inside the car and just pump the brakes. So I'll go ahead and I'll do that once I do the other side. But these are done. You know, these are done now. You know, it's greased up. You know, you're gonna have to pump the brakes to get the piston to come back out and start sandwiching these brake pads together. But you know, the kit comes like this. It's just baggy with different hardware. Like I said, the baggie came with one of these little clips. This was the pad that was on the inside. So I ended up putting it back on there. I'm not sure, honestly, I'm not even sure what exactly that's for, what it does. Let me see if I can see it, if I can show it here. It's hard to see, it's back here. That's where it's at, so I'm not exactly sure what that's for. Okay, I'm back. I'm actually doing the other side, and I just, I was looking at these clips, just trying to figure out what exactly their purpose was. They seem to have it, I think, honestly, it looks like they only put them on the inside, but honestly, you could actually put them on all four. It turns out these are actually wear indicators. You know, I had talked about earlier the fact that, you know, I was saying with these, I know in my truck, these are the ones that once it gets down to this, it starts making that noise, that squealing noise, when this metal bracket touches the wheel. On these, apparently, and I can't remember if my truck was the same, if they had these. It might have had these built in also, I can't remember. But these actually, once you get down to the end, this will actually touch the rotor. So you can see here, this was the old one, and it's actually getting down to where there's no more pad material left. So once you get down to that, it'll go down to this metal, and that metal is what's going to start making that noise. So that's what those are. So definitely, you know, you can install them on, I'm guessing you can install them, I'm not sure about the front because it might interfere with the wheel. I doubt it though, but definitely at least have one of them on the back. So that way you have an indicator, just so that when it gets down, you'll start getting that squealing and you'll know that you need new brake pads. So that's what that's for. I just wanted to make sure that, I guess, you know, like I said, brakes are brakes. You know, there's little differences to all of them, but if you can do the brakes on this car, you can do the brakes pretty much on any car. You know, I've done the brakes on the Porsche and the Escalade. I know Volkswagen sometimes are tricky. Those are the ones you tell me sometimes do have to look into. I noticed I had a Volkswagen in 2003 that needed some special tools in order to just replace the brake pads, but that's the exception. So I'm just bringing that to you so that you know, make sure you put these back in, you know what they are. All right, so both wheels have been put back on, all the brakes have been put back on, the brake pads, brake wear sensors. Now what we're gonna do is we are gonna close this off, and I'll check I can see here the brake fluid is at a good level. So we're okay with the brake fluid. You can actually see it in there. So the brake fluid is at a pretty decent level. It was lower earlier, but obviously, you know, putting the new brake pads, it'll go up. Close this up. Close the hood. Have a little cup of coffee. Cold coffee, nothing like it. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna start the car, and if you feel the brake right now, it's gonna go all the way to the floor. You know, and it's getting the fluid moving. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start the car. Actually, I'm gonna pump it a couple times without the car on, and you'll see it'll start getting stiffer. So that's how you prime the brakes. So start the car, and then push it all the way down. It'll get gradually stiffer and stiffer until it feels like normal again. So you want to do a bunch of times. It already feels normal. And then from there, you're going to want to go for a test drive. So, car comes to a stop. No squealing from the brakes, and we are good. So I just want to thank everybody out there, and hopefully, you know, we'll get to 1,000 subscribers soon. And just subscribe, hit the notification bell if you haven't already, like the video, comment, and I thank you all.